Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw. Greetings, everyone. I am Commander Claw, and welcome to my new series called Breaking Brews. And the goal of Breaking Brews is to change your mind about the commander or expand on the deck idea that you were originally trying to go for. If you've been keeping up with me, I did take a little break hiatus. I got burnt out, but I'm back. But anyway, I want to get straight into the video. And today our commander is Horobi's Death Wail. For 2 colors, 2 black, it is a 4/4 flying spirit. Okay. Whenever a creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, destroy that creature. All right. Let's talk about its strengths. The strength is it's going to be able to easily kill creatures. All you have to do is target the creature. So there's so many repeatable sources that target creatures and they can instantly die on command. The weakness is your opponents can do the same thing. Combine that together, this makes, in my opinion, one of the most political commanders out there because someone wants to kill it, but someone doesn't want to kill it. And I feel like most players don't create that scenario. Hear me now. Most players do not create that scenario in their deck building for Horobi's Death Well, where players and their opponents have to decide if they really want to keep Horobi's on the board or use them to their advantage. And I believe I can change your mind today with that. So moving on to Horobi, I just think players need to actually create scenarios in their deck building. And one thing I like to talk about is layering effects, layering concepts. And one way I look at Magic the Gathering is like programming. I'm not a programmer by any means. It's like programming. There's just layers, syntaxes on syntax on syntax on syntax. If this happens, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, I want to move on. Going to the section called Does It Work With? Hey, if you see any card that does it work with and you don't like or you do like, comment below, all right? First card is going to be King of the Oathbreakers. I'm sure you've seen other videos that mention this guy. I'm just going to remind all levels of players that this is a great include for King of the Oathbreakers commander deck. So you want to add Horobi to this deck because it is a 3/3 flyer, 2 colors, white and a black, Spirit Noble. You already got Spirit synergies, whatever. I also will tell you this in my videos that Tribal is a trap. Tribal is a trap because not all tribal cards are good and actually synergize with whatever tribalness you're trying to go with. But anyways, back to King of the Oathbreakers. It says, whenever King of the Oathbreakers or another spirit you control becomes the target of a spell or ability, it phases out. If you don't know what phasing out, phasing in means, we're going to go over that in the parentheses here. Treat it and anything attached to it as though they don't exist until your next turn. Then it says, whenever King of the Oathbreakers or another spirit you control phases in, create a tapped 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So what's going to happen here is Horobi's on the battlefield, King of the Oathbreakers is on the battlefield, right? And let's say Horobi gets targeted by your opponent. Your Horobi is going to phase out. So that means it is removed from the game, but it's not in exile. It's just removed from the game. And at your next turn after the upkeep, it comes back into play. Like nothing happened to it. So this triggers King of the Oathbreakers once Horobi has been targeted to create a tapped 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Bam. So you see what's going to happen here is Horobi doesn't really die. Long as King of the Oathbreakers is on the battlefield, he's going to keep coming back just the next turn, the next turn, the next turn. So you're going to be feeling pretty good about yourself. Now, what your opponents need to do is use 2 types of targets, and they need to target King of the Oathbreakers first. So if they want to get rid of this little invisible phase in, phase out combo, they have to target King of the Oathbreakers first to make him phase out. So he's no longer on the battlefield. Okay, let that spell resolve or ability resolve. Then target Horobi. And that way they destroy Horobi. Horobi goes to the graveyard because he's a secret commander. You'll find that term later on that I will use. And he's gone. He's dead. So the next turn, on your next turn, King of the Oathbreakers comes back. Bam. That's pretty much all that happens. But what you need to know is using two targeted either spells or abilities. That's what's important here. And also another thing when you're playing games, it's good to draw out spells from your opponents because they might be limited in the amount of removal spells that they're actually using. They might have 2 board wipes in the deck. They might have 5 single targeted removals, whatever. But if you draw them out and make them use it, it's gone. So that way, if they don't have any recursion, you're not as worried. But you may have 2 more other players to worry about. But that's all part of the game because Magic is a very social, interactive game. It's super addicting. I know if you're just getting into it, oh my gosh, it is addicting. And guess what? I'm willing to bring you more deck brewing ideas. Breaking Brews. Moving on. Here is a popular commander, Kenrith the Return King. I personally hate this commander. It is a 5-color commander. They like to call it Wooburg, WUBRG. If you ever see that anywhere, that's what it stands for. White, blue, black, red, green. This commander is 5 colors, right? So how would it really work with Horobi's Death Wail? Well, if both of them are on the battlefield, you can use Kenrith's second ability. Tap 1 colorless and a green, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And if you have Horobi out there, you can target any creature and kill it. Now, also, just for you new players, if a creature has indestructible, Horobi's not going to kill it. Okay, you need to exile creatures that are indestructible, or give them negative equal to their toughness, right? Or phase them out. There's other ways to get rid of indestructible creatures. Horobi only kills creatures that are not indestructible. Also, I think the other reason why Kenrith is recommended on EDH Rec with Horobi is because the final ability, put a target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. So that is graveyard recursion. So if you have Horobi and Kenrith out and you decide to kill a creature, now you have the option to bring back that creature from someone's graveyard, any player's graveyard. It could be yours, it could be one of your opponents, and it could be a very interesting creature that you want on your side of the battlefield. All right, moving on to some more cards. Does it work? I'm going to tell you about Cauldron of Souls. This is a highly recommended card for Horobi's Death Wail. If you don't put this in your deck, it's not going to really. This card is amazing with it, just because you can choose any number of target creatures. Each of those creatures gain persist until end of turn. That's what this card does, right? So all you do is tap it, and you choose any number of creatures, and they die. So what I want to explain is the scenario that's going to happen, right? You might be looking at this card, and you use this ability, and you're like, well, doesn't the creature come back with the +1 or the -1 counters? It does not. Why? Because the ruling says choose any number of target creatures, period. Then Horobi says that, right? It automatically destroys those creatures. Then the remaining text of Cauldron of Souls says each of those creatures gain persist until end of turn. It doesn't matter. Horobi's ability is the final result after the period of choose any number of target creatures. Those creatures are dead before the second sentence of each of those creatures gain persist until end of turn. I don't know the exact ruling. I saw it somewhere. I read it somewhere. I even asked judges. They explained it to me. But that is the scenario that is happening. So when you add this to your deck and you use it on your friends, just know that that's the way it goes and it works. Very powerful board wipe that is repeatable. Other thing I like to mention is always adding repeatable sources of effects in your deck. Because if you can use it at one more time, that could be the game-winning moment for you. Who knows? All right. Moving on to Liquid Metal Torque. Yeah. This is a mana rock. It's for 2 CMC. You tap it, you add 1 colors. But that's not what it's used for Horobi here. Well, actually, yeah, it is. You can use it to cast Horobi or other spells. But the way it gets really nasty to your opponents is targeting non-land permanents, become an artifact in addition to its other type. Who cares? Whatever creature your opponent has out there, along with your Horobi, all you do is target it, bam, is dead. It's not coming back. And just what? You had this early out on the battlefield. It's giving you two options: Mana Rock and Target Destroy. You got to add this to your deck. All right. Moving on to Black Sun's Twilight. Here, it is a Black X spell, right? At instant speed. That's super important here. Instant speed cards, yeah, they're going to be game changers, and I highly recommend those in your deck. Okay. So, moving on. Black Sun's Twilight reads up to one target creature gets negative X until end of turn. If X is 5 or more, return a creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Why this card is good is because it is a 2-for-1. That means you get 2 effects for 1 spell. The more type of effects that you can put on 1 spell, generally, the better your deck is. I mean, who doesn't like options? You got to have options because players are going to come at you crazy, sideways, maniacally in the game of Magic, and you just need to have answers. If you don't have answers, that player's going to be explosive. But anyway, back to Black Sun's Twilight. It's a 2-for-1. You don't even have to put that much X into it, right? To eliminate a creature. You can tap it for 2 mana total and get rid of a creature. But that's not what we want to do here. We want to be able to bring back a creature from your graveyard and destroy another creature. That's what you want to do. So you're paying at least 6 mana for a creature that is 5 CMC or less. Easy as that. Easy as that. Easy as that. 2-for-1. All right, all right. This is my new favorite segment. I call it Politics as Usual. It's actually inspired by the song Jay-Z, Politics as Usual, on the Reasonable Doubt album. If you don't know it, go check it out. But anyway, I'm not here to promote Jay-Z. I'm here to promote your political game in your EDH deck building. Let's talk. All right, next up, we have Kumbaj Witches. You've seen it on EDH Rec, and you read it, and you're like, this is stupid. Okay, let me tell you what it does. For 2 black mana straight up, it's a 1/3 human wizard. You tap it, it deals 1 damage to any target and 1 damage to any target of an opponent's choice. Why is this good? It's good because you get to ping either their opponent or ping a creature if Horobi's on the battlefield and Kumbaj Witch is on the battlefield. But your opponents get to do the same thing. Now, what gets interesting is, let's say your opponent has a creature taken away from a prison effect, like that Bishop of Valor. I think it's a white vampire that takes a player's creature and it puts a prison effect on them, but it's a 1/1. Anyway, you need to help out a friend, or you're going to change the tides of battle. You ping the opponent for 1, and you say, "Hey, buddy, you can get your creature back if you hit that bishop for with Kumbaj Wishes." Oh, they can't resist. They can't resist. They're gonna take their creature back. So what I'm trying to say is Kumbaj Wishes adds a dynamic of politicalness where you get to do 1 damage to a target player or creature, and your opponent gets to do 1 damage to target creature or player. Just know they will hit you back. But hey, that opportunity is there. And you gotta add political game to your deck building because humans don't think rationally, or sometimes they do think rationally, and you can take advantage of mismatches or players' tendencies. And cards like this are just spicy, spicy. You got to love the flavor text here. It says all things are connected: light to dark, age to youth, blood to blood. Moving on. Win cons, win cons. We're gonna talk about how you can win with Horobi's Death Wail. Yeah, you may not like these, but hey, you should check them out. Anyway, first card up is Skull Storm. Skull Storm is a 9 CMC sorcery. 7 colorless, 2 black. It says when you cast a spell, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. Each opponent sacks a creature. Each opponent who can't loses their life rounded up. So you want to play this card when your opponents generally don't have any creatures. And you've casted Horobi at least twice, 2 times. Like it's gonna work. So what happens is here, let's just take a hypothetical scenario, right? You've casted Horobi 2 times. Somebody destroyed it, cast it again, it's out there, right? So you trying to win the game and you cast a spell for 9 mana. Horobi's been casted twice. Your opponents have 0 creatures on the battlefield. They're at 40 life. This triggers twice. Okay, they go from 40 to 20. That's one time. Then 20 to 10. That's 2 times. Just like that. For 9 mana, you've already done 2 times half their life. They're not coming back from that. Your opponents are going to hate losing half their life so quickly. So quickly. And like effortlessly. For 9 mana, that's nothing. And they have to sacrifice a creature. So you want this card to be casted when your opponents have no creatures, or they at least have one, or Horobi is late game and you need to get life totals down to 0 or as low as possible. And you can swing in for commander damage. Moving on. One of my favorite cards. I've always had the hardest time of playing this card, but in my Horobi deck, it has worked brilliantly. Revel in Riches. For 4 colors, any black mana. It is an enchantment that reads, whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. Yeah. Okay, so the great thing about this card is you can win the game. Just having 10 treasure tokens. That's not hard. In black, it actually might be kind of hard. I got a little secret for you later on. But, black does make treasure tokens, and there's a way to make treasure tokens. And you're going to have a Horobi out there, and your deck is mainly to kill your opponent's creatures. You get 3, 5 creatures dead off of a board wipe after you tag teamed it with a Cauldron of Souls. Players are creature heavy, and you keep killing their creatures. You can win the game. But just know you will be a target. Yeah. And beware of destroy enchantments. Players will have those, and they will destroy your enchantment before your turn happens. Don't think that won't happen. So when you play this, expect it to leave the battlefield because the players do not want you to win like that. It's a very, it's not even a salty way. It's like almost like a pointless way of winning, but it's fun. Like that achievement is tough to do. Let's go. Moving on to Remorseless Punishment. All right, what you need to know about me is I love instants and sorcery spells. I'm really a spell slinger. But this card, I need you to let you know because it is a 5 mana sorcery that says target opponent loses 5 life unless they discard 2 cards or sacks a creature or planeswalker. Repeat this process once. Man, for 5 mana to do this twice where they get rid of 2 cards, a creature, or a planeswalker. Remind you, you have Horobi's Death Wail. There's going to be limited amount of creatures on the battlefield. Okay, so they don't have any creatures. They're holding cards in their hand, and this is a great way to get rid of cards or target a player who's limited on these resources, which is, no cards in their hand or 1 card in their hand. If they have 1 card in their hand, they have to discard 2 cards, and it doesn't count. It does not count. So yeah, discard 2 cards and lose 5 life, or lose 5 life. They got to do one of these. If they can't, they're losing 5 life. And you repeat it twice. That is 10 life total, y'all, for 5 mana. For 5 mana, 10 life. And that's not even your attack phase or other effects that make players lose life or you deal damage. Oh, just to give you a snippet, dealing damage and losing life are 2 different things for all you new players. Usually in the black color, you will lose life. So you'll see like Insanguinate says, blah, 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 tap X, players lose X life, right? While the red color usually says it deals damage. Completely different when you start reading into more cards with Magic. Moving on to cards that we need to audition for your deck. I want you to try these cards. Let's go. Now, you remember when I told you Revel in Riches, you need to make 10 treasure tokens? You got to add this one here. Lobelia Sackville Baggins. It's from the Lord of the Rings set. For 2 colors, black is a legendary creature, halfling citizen, 2/3 with flash. Okay, flash. Menace. Ooh, little nice keyword choices here. But it says, when Lobelia enters the battlefield, exile target creature card from an opponent's graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn. Then create X treasure tokens where X is the exile creature's power. Y'all don't hear me here. You do not hear me here. If you have Revel of Riches out and it's with 5 treasure tokens, and Horobi's been out there and players have been watching their creatures die, and they had a 5/5, even after Horobi's gone, during that turn, you can cast her at someone's end step. If that creature has power, what, 5? Bam. You get 5 treasure tokens, and you still have Revel of Riches out on your turn, or at the beginning of your turn, with 5 treasure tokens, that's game. That's 10 treasure tokens on your upkeep. Game. So you got to add Lobelia Sackville Baggins for that instant win ability. And also, it's good to be able to mana ramp in black. I think a lot of players, when I look at Mox Field playlists, deck lists, they don't add a mana rock package or mana ramp good enough in other colors outside of green. Like green is just easy to do, right? But in the other colors, you gotta get creative, and you gotta know there's gonna be pluses and minuses, rewards, and all that jazz. Like it's just not gonna be a smooth boat like green. So black does this with this card, Lobella. Let's move on. Okay, Cultist of the Absolute. For 1 black mana, it's a legendary enchantment background. It says commander creatures you own get +3/+3 and have flying, death touch, ward, pay 3 life, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sack a creature. Why this card is good? Because it gets around. Actually, let me put it like this. This card is good because it buffs up your commander. If you try buffing up your commander any other way, where it says target creature gets +1/+1, Horobi's gonna die. This gets around that. So it literally says you commander creatures. So when Horobi's out, it gets +3/+3. Horobi will be a 7/7 flying death touch, ward, pay 3 life. And at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Okay, you might be concerned with sacking a creature. Okay, maybe you have a Bitter Blossom in your deck. Maybe you have some way of generating zombies, right? But there's sack outlets, and making Horobi a 7/7 flying with death touch and ward, pay 3 life, that is a problem. Even if you're able to swing 1 turn or 2 turns with that, that's 14 commander damage. So you're literally making this mono black control themed creature a 7/7 Voltron-ish type of commander. Powerful, powerful, and players won't even see it. Moving on to Activated Sleeper, another sleeper, I might say, for 2 colors and a black. It is a Phyrexian shapeshifter with flash. See where I'm going here? Flash. You may have Activated Sleeper enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature in a graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn, except it's a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. So, any creature that is being killed, destroyed, or destroyed for that turn, before that turn ends, cast Activated Sleeper. You have that creature. It could be your opponent's creature. It could be something just devastating where your opponent's just like, I can't handle this. I don't know. Maybe Impervious Worm without trample. Whatever. You get to get a creature. So literally, I'm trying to tell you, when you have Horobi, take advantage of destroying players' creatures. Have your opponents take advantage of destroying their opponent's creatures. Give them opportunities to do that. Talk to them. Because Horobi is that political commander that can actually do that. Because some players, they're better deck buildings or they have better creatures that are just problems. There's problems. Like, for example, Constipated Sphinx. That is that 6/6 flying Sphinx that draws 2 cards on each player's upkeep. That is a must remove. So if you have Horobi out, yeah, that's an easy get rid of. Easy get rid of. All right. Thank you for watching Breaking Brews. If you enjoyed the channel, make sure you leave any feedback on deck building with Horobi. If you like it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you follow for more videos on Breaking Brews. I'll see y'all next time. Brew up a victory.